Hello, Elena. Thanks very much for joining us here today. Please, let's start by introducing who you are, what you do for a living, and that'll let everybody understand where we go from here.
Thank you for having me, Richard. My name is Elena Filippo, and I'm the Global Head of ESG Proposition at Refinitiv, as well as I'm a member of the Technical Expert Group on Sustainable Finance appointed by the European Commission.
Fantastic. So people understand what those things are, let's start to unpack it a little bit. So sustainable finance, ESG, let's do that first, and then we'll perhaps go on to the roles that you play within Refinitiv and the Commission.
That's a great starting point indeed, because our industry is buried into a lot of acronyms.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, regardless of the acronym, and those change periodically after every few years, we mean the same thing. And the purpose here is to understand the impact of capital when lended or invested into businesses, into organizations, into projects, and channeling that capital in a sustainable way to have positive impact.
Yeah. So your role, that's perfectly captured, thank you. And ESG, of course, meaning environmental, social and governance. That's the terminology we're using here, isn't it?
Yes.
And your role within Refinitiv, first of all, can you explain that to us?
Sure. So we help the financial industry factor in these additional KPIs, information measures, to make better informed investment decisions. When understanding and valuing companies, it's very important to also assess the intangible value of the businesses, to understand the governance of a business and how robust they are in sustaining and growing the organization in the future during times of disruption, during times of uncertainty, and managing those externalities, the environmental and social externalities that companies operate in.
And that's the tough bit, isn't it? Which is getting the data that allows people to really sort of believe in the veracity of it, so that they can say, okay, if I'm going to give you a higher share value or whatever it might be, I can do that on a basis of trust. So how is your role in Refinitiv and the Commission actually working on that data so that people can trust it, basically?
Absolutely. Transparency and standardization is a key challenge. And there is a lot of effort happening right now in the industry, lots of collaboration and initiatives to firstly define common understanding and standards. Mm-hmm. What is it that we talk about? What is green? Mm-hmm. And therefore the European Commission has been putting a lot of effort into developing an EU-based taxonomy on defining green activities across key sectors. And establishing that as the base framework for disclosure as well at a company level, because only with the availability of information, firstly, companies can manage those risks, and secondly, investors can develop the solutions to meet the emerging demand that they see in the market.
So that's very much needed. When's that kind of taxonomy going to come to the market so that people can actually start to use it?
There has been a lot of work going into this work stream, which is part of the Action Plan on Sustainable Finance, published by the Commission more than a year ago. It will go into force probably in a few years' time. Negotiations between co-legislators are happening as we speak, but we expect that it's going to happen soon, because the urgency behind this agenda is felt at all levels.
Yeah, I mean, we have an incredible priority set coming our way, don't we, in terms of just climate change, but of course this goes wider than that with the social and governance side. When you look at a consumer or a business, who now wants to start to access this capital you're talking about, how soon can we expect them to be able to get access to it in a way that is going to actually contribute to a positive impact in these areas?
Absolutely. We shouldn't forget that the primary objective behind all of these initiatives is to channel private and public capital in a sustainable future. Yeah. That's a prerequisite for us to sustain both economic and social prosperity in the future. There is already a lot of data in the market available for investors, a lot more than what we saw a couple of years ago. So the volume of information is exponentially growing. And already there are quite a lot of products and investment strategies being developed around ESG objectives, themes, thematic investments, but also framing a lot of it around the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So it's a universal framework that enables different market participants to have a common understanding and language when they define those themes. A lot more needs to come, of course. A lot more standardization, a lot more verification, and simply companies making more information readily available in a consistent and standardized way for investors.
So, although we don't have a perfect story today, we can act today, and it's just then about managing your risk in a perhaps slightly different way than you will do further down the line when you have even more data available to you, I guess.
Absolutely, and there are lots of insights that investors can already extract from this data to better manage their risks, also uncover very interesting opportunities that are emerging in the markets, and manage their own risks more effectively. Reputational risks, meeting the customer demands, and customer demands are changing. There is a huge flow of demand for sustainable products in the financial industry that both wealth managers, asset managers are facing and trying to meet.
Fantastic. Well, I think we've got a lot more that we can discuss on this subject, and I hope you'll come back and talk to us again on this. But for now, Elena, thanks so much for unpacking some of that for us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thanks.